Hi everyone, I'm Shauna and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm bringing to you a makeup inventory update. And what's new about this video, or what makes this video special, is that I'm also going to be including the monetary value of my entire collection, including like each category. In 2021, I decided that I wanted to do a couple of makeup inventories a year instead of just like one at the beginning and one at the end, to hopefully hold myself accountable and kind of keep my collection at a size that ultimately makes me happy. So I have more inventories coming this year. One of the things I learned in 2020 is that keeping inventories helps me like understand and know what's in my collection, but also keeps things in perspective. Do I want my money to go to makeup? Like, do I want to spend thousands of dollars on my collection and own hundreds of products? And so I'm hoping that by also calculating the estimated monetary value, it provides even more information and accountability. I think that the financial aspect, I know after calculating all the totals, this one is the kind of information, the kinds of numbers that affect me the most. And I thought that just knowing the actual quantity of makeup in my collection was like groundbreaking and informative and transformative, but knowing the monetary value has mattered so much more and impacted me so much more. So we're going to compare my numbers with January, and I did not collect financial information at that time. I have since like used up and decluttered a couple of pieces of makeup. You'll be able to see some kind of like evolution or growth over time or change. So let's get into the video, and let's start with primers. You will notice me looking around a lot in this video because I have a lot of numbers to look at. So primers. In January, I had 5, and that number did go up to 6 at one point because I did purchase a Vesca primer, and now it's currently at 4 because I finished one primer and then I decluttered one. So when I owned 6, the monetary value was $153, and right now with the 4 items it's $91. This number is kind of what I suspected because I knew that a couple of the primers were at least in the $30 range. So if you have a couple of $30 items and then you have a couple of more lower cost items, then it will even out. I'm glad this number is under $100. You know, I have 4, that number makes me happy, and I'm kind of hoping that it will just kind of shrink throughout the year because primers is not really a category that I tend to love on. So 4 primers at $91 makes me happy. Foundations. I had 12 in January, and in February I had 10. I recently finished one, which is the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation, and then I have since decluttered 3. So when I had 10 foundations, the total was $211, and right now it's at $159, and with the 6 foundations. That number, like, I didn't realize kind of how small my collection was getting. I wasn't too thrilled to declutter some of these items. I am hoping to sell at least one item, and then the BB cream, I'm gonna try giving that to my mom, and the stick foundation is the only one I'm not so sure what I'm doing with. At least I've been able to hopefully like kind of find solutions for most of these products. This number did kind of surprise me, and when I was looking through, I now have a spreadsheet. I was just previously just a paper with like totals on it. But now I have every item listed along with the shade range of each item and the cost of each item. So to see all of these listed out, what surprised me the most was the breakdown for this category between high-end and drugstore. I, in this category, have tended to really purchase drugstore foundation, or this is one of those areas where I've kind of played with the most until recently, where like the last 3 purchases, like Kosas and It Cosmetics were the last 3, and so those are more high-end. And so what I've noticed with this category is that I tend to experiment the most here with like a drugstore foundations, but the ones that tend to be my favorite are the higher end ones because they're the ones that have the better shade ranges and often better formulas, although I'm not trying to say drugstore can't make a good formula. I didn't quite understand the breakdown of like a drugstore to higher end. At the moment, I have 4 high-end products and then 2 lower end products. So that kind of is demonstrating some of that shift and some of the shift in my collection. And so $159, when I saw what I owned first, I thought it was still a lot of drugstore, but then it's like, oh, you have 2 products almost at like a 2 products in like basically the $40 range, like and I have 2 samples that were $21. So when I look at the numbers, or when I look at what I own, the fact that some are high end, the fact that majority of my products are now high end, it makes sense to me. And 159 is a number that like I'm pretty comfortable with. And I do think I'm gonna need another foundation fairly soon, but there's still like I haven't tried out the cosmetics foundations yet, so I really want to try those out before making any purchases. So the number here is a-okay with me, and I think really reflects what I own. And now that I've decluttered some, I'm now like becoming quite happy with what I own. Not everything's a favorite yet, but I feel like this is a place, foundation is a place where I can really make that happen, and I'm kind of excited about really kind of curating that part of my collection. Concealers. I previously owned 9 back in January, and I did own 8, but I have since decluttered my Glossier concealer to my friend Mio, and I'm very happy they're taking it. I finished one concealer, which was the e.l.f. Camo Concealer. That was number 9. So when I owned 8, the total was $178, and now at my 7, it's $150.60. That, like, when I saw 178, I'm like, $178 on concealer? This few items is so expensive, and I couldn't like wrap my head around why. And I don't know, for me, $180 in concealer is kind of a lot. And so when I went to go look at the products, because in my mind for some reason I thought I owned mostly drugstore for concealer, but like the NARS concealer is $40 and the Glossier concealer is $28, the MAC concealer is $30. So there's a few like high ticket items that like those 3 alone push this really on the cusp of $100. So that was something to note. And then when I looked at my collection, I was like, all right, so I got rid of like one of my more expensive concealers. Why is it still $150? That's because I also I had forgotten about my Kosas concealer. So this number makes sense, and I do think that my next concealer purchase is probably going to be drugstore, because I haven't been all that wowed with high-end formulas, and everything kind of creases on me like regardless. So I feel like if I'm gonna play with anything, it's probably gonna be at the drugstore. I've actually been thinking about purchasing the Maybelline Fit Me line. I have not tried any of those products since high school, like being literally 15, 16 years old. And I just wonder what like 26-year-old Shauna thinks about it. Hold on. I just had a moment. I thought, okay, my birthday's coming up in July. It's April now. And I thought in my mind that I was turning 26. I was like, yeah, I'm 25, I'm turning 26. And 26 was that age where it's like, I'm almost 26, so I can kind of call myself that, and doesn't really make a big deal. I forgot that I'm turning 27. I'm gonna be in my late 20s, and I don't have my shit together, and it's freaking me out. That's it. On to powders. I currently own 6 powders. Like right now in April 2020, I used up 1, which is the Hourglass Mini. So I had 7 and now I have 6. So that's fine. The total here is $139.97. Like I have 3 powders that are in the $30 range. The Glossier is $34. My Nude by Nature powder is $34. My Lawless Mini is $32. I was not aware the mini powder cost $32. It like kind of blew my mind a little bit. And I also forgot how expensive the Glossier and Nude by Nature powders were. I thought that they were both in the $20 range. The Glossier one is, but when you convert, it's more than that. Again, I honestly don't think that powders is going to be a category that I buy high-end from now on. Because one, I don't really like loose powders, and two, the drugstore does such great powders and I use them at such high rates that drugstore has been my favorite. But in 2019, I purchased higher end products thinking that if I'm gonna try a loose powder, it's gonna be high end because they have such great formulas. That didn't turn out to be true, and so because of this dabbling in high end products, I'm just like, I learned my lesson. I know I'm a drugstore girl, but I guess I'd forgotten that I had strayed away from my drugstore tendencies with powders. Powders is a true category where it's like, it has been until recently, like historically, exclusively drugstore. Whereas other categories, like I've mixed. For the powders, this is a really great reminder that spending more money doesn't inherently mean that you're getting a better product. I don't like this product category no matter how much money I spend on it. And I already have powder favorites. So time to just kind of remind myself that drugstore is where I just know I need to be. So bronzers. I had 3 and I currently have 3 because I just finished my ColourPop bronzer. And I also bought my Vesca bronzer, which is such a shame. I feel so frustrated about that product because I bought it with such good intentions and I was going to bring a review, but that company is just no longer shipping in Canada. I have confirmation about that. So it's also basically $40 when you convert. So that's expensive. And with bronzers, I've historically bought drugstore. I don't know if I'm going to continue that pattern. I bought the Vesca one because they have such a great shade range, and drugstore bronzers typically only have a couple. And bronzers for me historically, like the drugstore ones work good, but I was really interested in buying an option that was like Canadian, indie brand, great shade range. So I don't know if my next move is going to be drugstore or higher end with a better shade range. Time will tell. So when I had all 4 bronzers, I was $112 worth of bronzer. Now it's $91. That Milk Makeup bronzer, I always forget exists. Yes, I repackaged it. No, I haven't used it, and it's frustrating, and it's like playing mind games with me. So I always forget that exists. And so again, this is another product category where I was like, oh, I have like $50 worth of bronzer, because I'm thinking about what I've historically bought, and also having such few products, I'm like, oh, this is like 50, 60 bucks. So I was surprised to know that when I had 4, it was over $100. And now with just the 3, it's 91. Still, like, it's still surprising because I've never been the person to buy the high-end stuff. And Vesca, I justified, and I still, like, if they ship to Canada, that probably would be my only bronzer of choice, and that would be it. But because that's not the case, I'm like, what do I do? So time will tell on that one, but I don't really think I want to be having a bronzer category with $100. Blushes. Here's the thing, y'all. Back in January, I had 14, and for a while I had 15, and now I have 13 because I decluttered 2. One is going to my friend Mio, and one I've already sold, which is the Glossier Cloud Paint and Haze. When I had all 15, this category was worth $441, and it's currently, with my 13, is worth $373. This category is just one that, like, I should have known better. When you own 13 of anything or 15 of anything, like, that number is like basically automatically going to be in the hundreds of dollars range. But I had not realized that majority of my blushes are high-end. Like, I knew it when I saw it, but not in like the price tag of my mind. So the fact that I have $373 worth of blush does match what I own. I didn't realize that the Patrick but blushes were $45 each, even though I know objectively their value. I go into Sephora, like, I've seen the price, but I guess I had just forgotten, and to own for almost $400 worth of blush, it would be over $400 with taxes. This is where, when I'm starting to get to those higher numbers, really starts my questioning. Do I want to put this much money in makeup? And in my opinion, you can like invest your money into your makeup, because for me it's like a hobby, and I have a YouTube channel, and I'm not really buying a ton of stuff to really review here, but like I am making money from this thing, and it also brings me a lot of joy. And there is something to say about putting money into something that's like a joy, a passion, you know, in your life. But I guess my question that this has prompted is, what point does it go from to at what point does it go to being upset, like excessive? Like, I've put in too much money at this point, or like where's the cutoff? Because it just doesn't sit right with me to have $400 worth of blush, but I love each and every one of them. And one thing that this year and my no buy has kind of taught me is that you can love stuff. You can love a lot of things, and want to buy a lot of things. And there can be, like, you could buy a full new wardrobe worth like $5,000, and everything could be totally perfect for you and fit you well and be a love. But you still don't have that $5,000 to spend, even though it would be a wise investment. And while I feel like I've kind of trimmed the fat of my blush collection to really have things that I love, I don't know if $400 worth of blush is what I want to be spending $400 on. I just don't know what that line is. Investing in these things matters, and you know, can bring you joy and can be smart and helpful and good and justified. But I think I just need to find what's the monetary cutoff. At what point is it too much? I haven't figured it out, and I don't really know what the right answer is, because I love what I have, but I don't like how much I've spent on it. Let's go to highlight. I have 5. In January I had 6 highlighters, and I currently have 5. I decluttered 2, my e.l.f. highlight and my Glossier Halo Scope, and then I bought 1, so which is the Vesca Moonlight highlight. I love everything that I have, and I knew the prices of like everything, so seeing $127 is fine, because the only surprise is double gleam. I actually didn't realize that was $40. I thought it was in the $30 range, but everything else wasn't a surprise. And because this is not a category that I spend all that much money on, and not one that I tend to overbuy, I feel good with these 5 products, because there's like different formulas. I have a stick, Becca's a mini, Vesca's a really small one, and so I have different formulas from different brands. I have a Fenty highlight that's in like a cream formula, and so I feel like they all serve me really well. The only other highlight that I was thinking of getting is the Zuma highlight from Persona, and I feel like just in the highlight category that I would be okay with that, but not at this particular moment. So this is a category that I'm happy with, and I'm like, yes, the numbers reflect what I know, what I have. I don't really want to grow. This is a category where I am rarely seeking out new options. So I'm very happy here. So brow products, I previously had 6. I finished up my Quo pencil, and then I decluttered my my Quo brow gel to my mom. So she's using that, and that's glad I found a home. So now I have 4, and the cost here is $34, which really surprised me. And I'm so proud of this, because I have 4, and brow products, like 2020 was the year of the brow for me, and the year of the blush. And there's a lot of different brow formulas that like I really want to try, but I know what my favorite is, and I know that it's e.l.f., and I'm really like working on getting everything out, so like to the point where I just own the e.l.f. one. And there might be times in the future that I might dabble here or there, because I'm like a brow freak and I love brow products, brow gels. I wanted to try the Glossier one. That's one that sticks out. And so I feel like once I finish one or two, then like I will be okay with maybe trying out another one or two products. Like I think I will use and love. But the overall cost of this is $34. Is happy because like I bought that ABH mini, which I'm very excited with, and everything has been very affordable here for the most part. So I think a $30 range is like the most I ever really want this to be. But the brow category in general has really shown me that like you can get really great brow products on a budget. And when I see a category like this, $34, like I've learned my lesson that like lower end products do work really well, and I know my favorite and I want to stick to it. It really like reinforces this idea of like I really want to keep this small. Like I've done such a good job at it and I know I can keep that up. So this testing of things that I think I will like, it's like I know I can keep that in check, or like I only try maybe like one and not three or four, like the things that are driving me, because I love a good brow. I feel like I'm doing my job really well here. So I'm going to talk about pot shadows next. These are generally in a pot, but I do have a couple of liquid ones. So like the Super Shocks too. So this is like my kind of catch-all term. I had 14 in January and I did have 13 at one point, but I did declutter an Hourglass shadow and now I have 12. So at the height when I had 13 it was $304, and now with my 12 it's $266. It does seem kind of crazy that I have over $250 worth of single shadows. If I was shopping at ColourPop, I would probably just own ColourPop shadows and maybe the odd one here and there. But I tend to like different formulas and experimenting in this particular category. I knew it was going to be expensive because I have 12, but I had forgotten just how many high-end products that I have. Like I have two of the Hourglass shadows at $38. I have one Laura Mercier Eye Caviar stick at $38, one Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow at $36. So there's a lot of expensive items here. And while I really do like to play with this category, this is a true reminder of keeping it concise, keeping it curated, and maybe even working on finishing a couple. I've been thinking of putting one of these in a project. This is a category that I really like to experiment with. And now I'm wondering, like, am I getting the use out of all of these? Or have I just bought them or kept some of this stuff because I spent the money on it? And I think that I may need to come to terms with a couple of these, not for the sake of just like getting those numbers down, because that money is already spent. Like I'm not gonna get back that $266 even if I decluttered them. But what's important here is if I've spent this much money and I have this much money in this category, I want to make sure I'm using it all. Otherwise, it's like taking opportunity to use, it's taking up like real estate and opportunity, because I own so much and I have stuff I don't like. So I want to make sure what I do have, I'm actually using. While $266 reflects what I own, I did forget how much some of this stuff costs, and makes me uncomfortable to know that I own $266. Do I really want $266 worth of potted shadows when I have shadows that come in pans, where I have eyeshadow palettes? This isn't even the full extent of my eyeshadow collection. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy that I've spent so much money on eyeshadows. The full extent of it is, we'll see in a second. And I think, you know, across 2020 and into 2021, I've become better about discerning my taste with eyeshadows and color preferences, where I haven't in the past and just bought every color story that spoke to me. So I just took a pause to recollect my thoughts about my single shadows, and I think this is going to summarize it best. I have been interested in experimenting with single shadows, and a lot of the money that's invested in this category is because I've had this desire to experiment, and I think looking at it, there's places to declutter, and I see that now. And some of these purchases were like, I like the Hourglass shadows and I should have just bought one, but I bought many. And I feel like I've learned this lesson because I buy one at a time now. Like the Vesca Moonlit Dream Shadows, I bought one to try it out and not like 3 right away. So one of the reasons why this category is in the state that it is because I've wanted to experiment and try new things, and that's something I'm doing less of lately. And when I look at my pan shadows, I've done the same thing, and I haven't fully thought through the color story and the use and the quantity. When we get to eyeshadow palettes, in 2018 and 2019, I bought palettes because I liked the color story. There are palettes that I own where the color story is good, but I don't necessarily want those colors on my eyes. And I've also purchased multiple palettes at once, like making a ColourPop order and ordering 2 or 3 palettes at one time. I haven't done that in a long time, and I feel like lately I'm more discerning and more critical about the eyeshadow palettes I've been bringing in. And my eye has been the most critical to eyeshadow palettes, but less so to the single shadows and the pan shadows. Now, I haven't purchased a pan shadow since 2019, and I don't think I will anytime soon, but the single shadows are the thing that call to me the most, because it's like I can do that one and done look. And so I was thinking, oh, I only bought 2 eyeshadow products this year, both of them palettes. But then I forgot that I have purchased at least one eyeshadow product, which was the Vesca product. And so it's like 1 eyeshadow product a month so far this year. And that can't keep up. Like, that can't be where I'm at. 1 eyeshadow product, 12 palettes, that's too much for me, too much for one person to use. So I'm super glad that I've done this evaluation with the financial component in mind, because now it's making me rethink my collection in new ways. So let's just talk about the pan shadows. I did have 36, I still have 36. 31 of those are ColourPop, 5 of those are MAC. I kind of knew that's where things were at. And it's about $205 worth of eyeshadows. I knew I owned a lot, and I individually selected and purchased all of these, but I didn't do them all at once. And so I was a little surprised at how high that number was. When you go and look at the 36 shadows, it's like, yes, it's justified. I think that there are truthfully some single shadows that I could declutter, but the problem is that both of my palettes are full. Like, how would I send them to somebody? How would I don't want to say dispose of them, but how would I get rid of them, especially because who's going to buy my single shadows from me? Like, it's probably not going to sell in Poshmark unless I know somebody who would use them. And then how would I even give it to that person? So I think that there's some decluttering with those pan shadows too, especially living with that iteration of this collection for over a year now. There's definitely things that I'm not using that it's like, okay, it's time to get rid of. And I feel like my eyeshadow preferences have solidified. Not that they'll stay the same forever, but they changed and they're staying the same. And I feel that long-term trajectory, like I've come to terms with things about myself, and that I have more bright, kind of vivid and shadows that I don't use. So I think there's just not a significant amount, but there's probably maybe 5 to 6 shadows that I could see myself getting rid of because they don't serve me. That's a conversation to have later and to figure out what to do with that. But my eyeshadow palettes feel the most curated. And back in January, I had 14, and then it went up to 16 because I bought 2 eyeshadow palettes, like I said, and then now it's at 14 because I decluttered 2 palettes. It was at 403 when I had 16, and now it's at 385. I actually thought that this category would be more because I know I have quite a few high-end palettes in here, and that does kind of bring up the total. I feel out of all 3 eye categories, I feel the most satisfied here because I'm looking at my list. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, yes, love, 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 love. Or there's a couple like my Frozen 2 that's seasonal and brings me a lot of joy in the winter. The Sweet Talk palette brings me joy in the spring. So I'm really happy with this particular category, and I think I just need to keep my discerning skills kind of open and working to be sure that if I bring in any eyeshadow product, I think about my eyeshadow collection as a whole, because I haven't. I've only thought about my eyeshadows in terms of my eyeshadow palettes and not really my singles or any kind of version of my singles. Now it's like I have everything that I need, like a neutral palette, like a neutral brown palette, a pink palette, a kind of a purpley palette. I have like my gold, like my glam palette. You know, I have different versions. Like I have all my bases covered, and anything else on that has to serve a very specific purpose. And I don't think I was totally thinking that through yet. The next thing I bring in, I think it's gonna have to be really special. And when everything that you bring in is really special and kind of thought out, gonna just make my collection even more special. Now let's talk about lip products. So I had separated lip products in all my previous iterations of makeup inventories. I had 36 in January and I currently have 35. I purchased a couple of lip products, mainly the, why am I blanking on the name? Mainly the Revlon lipsticks. Those are the only two, and then I've used up quite a few glosses. The total value of everything, of all 35, is $597. This is the category that bothers me the most. The lip glosses that I own, that's not where the bulk of my money's at. The bulk of my money is in the actual lipsticks. The lip glosses just themselves are $194. $200 is like a third, and the 2/3 of the cost is with the lipsticks. I don't know, I'm kind of struggling for words here because mistakes are made. Either way, like I love the gloss bombs. They're my favorite lip gloss. But do I want all of this money in gloss bombs? Like $50 in lipsticks is a lot. Basically just been going high end for lip glosses. Everything here except for my Wet n Wild gloss and the e.l.f. Ride or Die lip balms, everything else is high end. And so I think I owe it to myself to try, well, to finish and work on these products, but also to look at the drugstore, because I've completely been missing or ignoring the drugstore and spending tons of money on high-end lip products. What if there's just like cheaper, better things out there? The Pro Kisser Luscious Lip Balm from Fenty. That's not something that I really needed to own in terms of glosses. I use them so much. Is it worth having $25 lip products? Maybe a couple, but to have the overwhelming majority of my lip products be high-end doesn't sit well with me, and is something that actively, like, I'm done doing that, and I'm gonna be going to the drugstore for some of this. Like, this is a category where I know the drugstore does lip products well. In terms of the actual lipsticks, there's a lot of them that I really like. The Becca lipstick and Sugar, really love them. Love my MAC lipsticks. Love the Generation Gs. But I don't need to go to high-end first. And I think beyond that for the lipsticks individually, I don't think I should be buying any more lipsticks, period, because I'm not using the ones that I have. I'm going through them so slowly. Accumulating any more doesn't make sense. It makes me angry to know that I have $600 worth of the lip glosses make me a little bit frustrated because I've only been going high end. So I think that there could be some experimenting that is justified in the drugstore. Whereas with lip products, lipsticks, just in that category, I need to stop. Like, for the rest of the year, I need to just stop. I feel uncomfortable knowing that I have $600 worth of lipsticks in my collection. So I think I need to put a no buy on lipsticks. I said it, and I need to hold myself accountable because this is upsetting. $600 in lipsticks is upsetting. Well, it's more like $400 in lipsticks themselves. $400 in lipsticks, that's upsetting. That really is upsetting, especially when you're not using them all. That's a lesson right there. Lip liners. I previously had 8 and now I have 6. Some have been decluttered. I'm working on one from Ofra right now. I didn't realize that my MAC lip liners were $23. that's more expensive than the lipsticks. This category I'm okay with. I don't really feel the need to buy any more lip liners. And I think I'm going to use the Ofra one in the next couple of months. So I'm happy here. Okay, to move on. The next couple of categories, or the last couple of categories, I'm going to fly through them. Eyeliners, I had 3 and I currently have 4 because I purchased the Marc Jacobs eyeliner in my favorite shade, my favorite eyeliner. I really just really want to own 3 of these, and I do generally own 3. The category total is $45. Super happy with that. Super content. It's another area where like I know my preferences and like I've learned it well. I've done it well. So good job, Shauna. Mascaras, I currently have 2. I have a Sephora brand Lash Craft, which is $5. And then I got a Mineral Fusion mascara for Christmas last year as a gift, so I didn't put a total there. I had 5 in January and I'm now down to my last 2. This category is not going to stay this way forever. I hope to only ever have 2 on hand from now on. I learned my lesson from buying that 2 big mascara set from Sephora in 2019. I'm still working on it, on my last mascara. Either way, I'm kind of hoping this category to be generally around $20 to drugstore mascaras. And now like I'm at that point where they're kind of running low and I'm like, what mascara do I want to buy first? Which one do I want? So I'm excited about purchasing that, and we're doing good in that category. The very last category I've labeled Miscellaneous because it's like more just like face palettes, and I have the Hourglass palette and then the Quo Concealer palette, and I decide to lump this face palette by itself and with this concealer palette because I don't use that concealer palette as a traditional concealer. And then in the Hourglass face palette, I don't want to lump, like I don't want to add those products to the respective categories like blush or bronzer, because I don't think about this palette in that way. I think about it as its own distinct entity, so I categorize it on its own. I had 2 in January and it's still currently the same, so it's $123 for this category. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I'm never going to buy any face palette ever again, hopefully, and I'm fine here. So in January, I had 179 makeup products. Before I did that mini declutter that you saw a couple weeks ago, I had 173 products, and the total cost of my collection was $3,385.39. Right now, today, as it stands, it's $2,729.02, and I currently have 160 products. The difference is 13 products and $656.37. The cost of this was shocking. I decluttered 13 products worth $650. Shocking. It bothers me that I have to declutter anything, but the fact that I had $650 of unused makeup in my collection, and I know that there's just slightly bit more after doing this inventory, it bothers me that I've wasted that amount of money. I would really like this year to get the total valuation under $2,000. I don't know if I can do that, but I think I have to set a goal somewhere, right, in order to even have any attempt of achieving it. So I hope that the most expensive my makeup collection ever is where it's at right now, and some fluctuation is okay, like you have a backup or maybe you're trying one new thing, that's okay, but I don't like knowing I have so much money put into this. I filmed this video once before and I decided to refilm it because I was really upset in that video that my makeup collection before this declutter was worth $3,300. Like, you could see my face fall in that video, and I was like kind of quiet, introspective, like I was genuinely upset. And as I've sat with this information for the past week, some of these categories make me upset, but not everything. And I think majority of my collection, we're talking about small tweaks to get to the place that I want, like genuinely small tweaks. And I was also trying to make myself feel better by comparing this to other people's collections. Well, I heard somebody gave me their numbers and they had like $10,000 or $5,000. And the point isn't what other people are doing and how much money other people want to spend on makeup. The point is what makes me comfortable, what works for me, and how much I make and where I'm at right now. And the biggest upsets, lipsticks and the eyeshadow collective. But those are really easy changes. Be very discerning about your eyeshadow products and think about all of your eyeshadow products as a whole kind of collective instead of just I only have eyeshadow palettes. And lip products, sorry Shauna, you don't need to buy anymore. Like I'm cutting you off. And that fixes the majority of my problems with it. The blushes, I'm happy with what I have, I just don't like how much I've spent on it. So how much I'm willing to spend on my makeup collection each year, I think this exercise has shifted that. As I've said, I could easily spend that full $800 budget and be completely happy with everything that I bought and love it. But I don't know, I'm at this point in time, my honest true feeling is I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I don't know what the budgeting play is gonna be for me because I don't want to have $3,000 or $3,500 worth of makeup. I just don't want to own that much, even though I love makeup and I could use a lot of it. But what I've learned is that when I'm panning stuff, I focus on that one thing and that makes me happy. So I don't need to own so much in all of these categories. So what the next move is, makeup does bring me true, like genuine joy, and I'm using it and I like it, but the problem is that it has gone into excess. And I think if I got rid of those few items and like pretended I never bought them, it would bring down the total, but not like $1,000. And I don't think I'm going to be that person who only ever owns $1,000 worth of makeup. Maybe, I don't know, but I think in my mind I'm just not sure where that distinction is between excess and and I don't actually know what that number would be if it was purely utilitarian. But I'm not that person, so I'm never gonna have that super inexpensive, super curated, like 1 or 2 products in each category kind of person, and I'm okay with that. And so that's why this number, this $2,700 over time, I've become more like, okay, like I'm understanding where this money is and like what value it brings to my life, but I know that it's still too much. And how much too much, that's where I'm not sure. And if I want to cut down on spending, I don't know what that's going to look like. So at the moment, there's still a lot of uncertainties, but what I can tell you is that this exercise has been the most beneficial thing that I've done for myself and my finances probably since starting my no-buy. I don't know why I haven't done it sooner, but I can't wait to check in on my collection in the near future because this has really kind of lit a fire under myself to get this shit together and to really think about the financial aspect of my collection, how much I want to spend and what that's going to look like. That's it. That's the video. Thank you so much for watching and being here today. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you've ever done this kind of inventory before, what your inventory is looking like. I would love to have a chat with you guys down in the comments below. When I posted my first inventory, there was so much good commentary back and forth, people providing me their opinions and their thoughts and some reassurance. Love to hear your thoughts down below. That's it. That's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.